Hey, everybody. Happy New Year. Dan LaBert, CEO of NAILBA here. Welcome back to another executive spotlight session, of course, with the NAILBA 40 hybrid meeting, and of course, our NAILBA ID network. Today, we have Bruce Donaldson, Chief Executive Officer at Simplicity Group. Bruce, Simplicity is a big supporter of NAILBA. So first off, thank you, and glad you're here.
Oh, I appreciate that, Dan, and Happy New Year to you, and excited to kick off the year the right way, and good to see you as always.
You have the first executive spotlight of 2022. So you got lead off. So real quick though, I always like to just have every executive just give a little background about yourself. How long have you been at Simplicity Group? Where were you prior? Just let's establish a little background here.
Oh, okay. So I've been in the financial services industry for almost 30 years. Together with the team, we started Simplicity Group 5 years ago. And have been in this seat ever since. My background is originally in finance and law. I moved over into the insurance industry when I started an insurance company in 2008, and I've been proudly a part of the insurance industry and the broader financial services industry since then.
Awesome. Well, this lines up well with, because I'm not going to take it easy on you, right? We had a panel discussion back in December with some of your colleagues from some other firms, Integrity Marketing, Gallagher, AmeriLife, and I love the fact of having each executive come in and talk a little bit about the landscape. But first and foremost, before we dive into the changing landscape for the BGA, how does Simplicity Group help their subsidiaries and advisors cross-sell other products, right? Because that's why we're all here. So you want to hit that one off the start?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think we don't view ourselves as a product sales organization, but rather an organization that supports financial planning, particularly for independent financial advisors. So for us, sales are an adjunct to what we do, which is what we really putting together a plan. Everything that we're doing at Simplicity Group is really designed to deal particularly with the mass affluent at the kitchen table level. If we can help our advisors and agents deliver great value to the consumers and what they need today, it's not access to products, but really a sound financial plan. That's what we're helping our advisors deliver to their clients. And as a part of that, as a natural extension, there are all sorts of cross-sale opportunities. And I would say the thing that we've been particularly focused on at Simplicity Group with our education, value, and partnership mantra is really if we deliver the education to the consumer through our agents and advisors, they're going to get great value. But what we're really trying to do is promote the value of insurance and insurance products as part of an overall sound financial plan.
Well,
so it's just natural to what we do.
You mentioned cross-selling there, right? And I know every executive has a crystal ball in their top right-hand drawer, and they always work perfectly, right?
So, particularly for you, I'm sure.
So let's look into the future of that crystal ball. I mean, what about, you mentioned cross-selling. What about, life agents and advisors selling annuities and securities and vice versa? I mean, is that our future? Is that part of our new normal?
I think absolutely it is. If you think about the fact that selling standards are rising across the financial services industry generally, and you think about the power of the internet and the fact that consumers can be more educated around particular products, they can go to any one of the carriers and get an illustration from a life policy or an annuity policy. That's not a challenge for consumers. What is the challenge is to really understand the opportunities of life insurance, for example, as a part of their broader financial plan. Where does that fit in? What risks does it mitigate? What does it allow them to do with the other parts of their wealth that maybe they want to have in the market? To us, that's what we're really focused on. And so to us, that cross-selling is just a part of a good planning process.
Okay. All right. All good. And so now let's dive into Simplicity Group. Let's talk about long-term strategy and who is responsible for setting it. Because, as many of the traditional BGAs out there are looking for scale and they're looking to align themselves, I think it goes back to, the first question every principal is going to ask: what is the long-term strategy?
Well, the long-term strategy for the group and what we're looking to achieve is probably different than our day-to-day business strategy. So okay. I'll answer it in that way. Look, Simplicity Group is a permanent business that it is filling what we view as an unmet market need right now, which is really a large national planning business that properly utilizes life insurance, annuities, and securities to help consumers realize their financial goals and mitigate risks that they can't mitigate anywhere else outside of the insurance industry. So in terms of the business that we're building, for sure, that's it. We're doing it in a way where simplicity is really a partnership. Every business that joins us has one or more owners that become Simplicity shareholders. And really the way we operate is in a partnership. Like all true partnerships, though, we know that the business strategy is best defined by the people who are providing those services to the market day to day. So for Simplicity Group, our strategy is really being driven in the short to medium term by the partners who have joined us and the partners that are looking to join us. And what we do is combine that with a broader Simplicity Group strategy around that permanent planning business. And that's really, we're a sales leader-led organization. And fortunately, I'm not the sales leader. I'm just the guy who's responsible for bringing the group together.
Bruce, you have some really good terms there. And before we jump into like integration, I'd love to just hit you cold with something like, Simplicity Group is contacted by a broker, or they're contacted directly by the principal of an agency. What are some of the questions that they ask you first, around that sort of long-term strategy and who's responsible for setting it? How far do they dive in with some of the questions? Like, what have you heard from all the partner agencies that you've worked with?
We've been in the very fortunate position at Simplicity where we haven't had to make outbound calling efforts. We don't use third-party intermediaries. We don't use bankers. We've built this partnership through internal referrals. And so for us, oftentimes we're getting what I would refer to as warm introductions from partners who are thinking about, I run a BGA, I'm very successful, I'm great at what I do on a day-to-day basis, but I can see the landscape shifting and changing. And as a business owner, I owe it to myself to stay abreast of what's happening and make an informed decision. Whenever you're in that seat as a business owner and you're trying to explore these conversations, the very first thing you're going to think about is, how do I do this in a way where my business information, which is really my personal information, stays confidential? And so at Simplicity, we take that very seriously. When we're getting warm referrals from people who are already partners at Simplicity and they're saying to their business colleagues and associates and industry participants, hey, this is a great place to be. This is a team that you can work with and trust, and find out what value looks like, and then get into those integration and opportunities to scale the business through what we can provide. That is the more natural way to happen. So really, we're getting those questions from what I would say are informed people who are thinking about what they should be doing because they've already talked to some of our partners around what life is like at Simplicity.
I was hoping you'd go there. I really was, because that's, especially with some of these agencies that are legacy agencies, right? In the family for many years. There's a closeness to the vest and much needed, but also a longtime family name that could be part of it. And they want to know what the culture looks like inside. And that's where that warm introduction, is so vital to the process.
Look, when you're talking about these sort of family, if you're talking about a multi-generation business that's been closely held, that usually has a strong patriarch or matriarch that set up the business, that may now have family members or very, very close, friends and family that are working in the business, the most important thing for you when you start that process is, can I trust the people that I'm working with? That's not the same thing as saying I'm committing to do a deal, but I want to know that I can have an informed discussion, share confidential information. And if I ever get to the point where it's not the right fit, or it's not the right time, or I need more time to think through some of the particulars, you're never going to have any concern that your personal information is out in the market. And it's the thing that we hold most dearly here at Simplicity is treating our future partners or prospective partners as well as our existing partners, and really protect their information.
I was taught years ago that all politics is personal, and that's kind of philosophically neutral, because when you apply it across the board, right, the last thing a principal needs to be concerned about is his or her relationship with 10,000 advisors, and then they may be looking for a new opportunity to grow the agency, and the whisper down the hallway can quickly change an advisor's relationship, especially since it's sometimes it's just a handshake agreement to do business with that agency. that being said, now let's dive into the firm's integration strategy. The warm introduction is made. The trust is there. It's felt. What are the next steps? How do they integrate and become part of a unified vision?
Yeah, so we've had 32 sales offices join our organization, and I often think about these businesses as back office, middle office, and front office. We would never presume to understand how to work with an agent base better than that patriarch or matriarch and the family that they have running the business. And so sales, how that's conducted, how you interface with your agents and advisors, that is very much left to the principals and partners that come and join us. We do share best practices. We do have thought leadership groups where our sales partners can work with each other, but that's not something that's coming from the broader Simplicity Group or Simplicity Group Holdings. What we provide from day one, however, is all the things that a small business owner needs today to get efficiency. So if you think about what it's like to own a small business in the United States today, it is a huge challenge. And we found, as a general matter, our BGA partners, when they're running their own business, can spend up to 30% of their work week doing non-sales activities. So what Simplicity Group provides from day one, in a way that there's complete alignment of interest with our prospective partners. In other words, we're not charging people for it. Everything from finance, accounting, HR, legal, benefits, payroll, compliance, all of these, what I would say, small business services, we provide day one to all of our partners. We do it at a standard that is, frankly, exceptional. It should be, because that's what we do all day long, and it frees up those advisors and the BGA principals to spend more time focusing on sales. The crossover point's really the middle office. Great sales leaders, great BGAs would tell you that you can't really distinguish operations from sales management because they're so intertwined. Both of those groups are facing off with the agents and advisors. So there, what Simplicity is doing is really leveraging the middle offices across our network. We are bringing them together onto one system, one platform. There are huge benefits from a scale perspective, but we never do that in a way that forces that BGA leader to give up a great service or not work with people that have been essential to what they're doing. That is really the bespoke part of what we're doing at Simplicity. I'd like to tell you that it's easy to do. It's not. It involves people, it involves trust, and it really involves us understanding how that particular agency or BGA is set up. And then over sort of a 6-month period from the time that we close the transaction, we let the dust settle. We get to know them better. Now, we're outside of a transaction context, and that's a whole set of issues that you've got to work through, as you know well. And then you get into the day-to-day business operations discussions. And if you try and force that, you're very likely to end up in a bad place. For sure, we could look at any BGA across the country and tell them that we think that we can provide middle office services that are going to help them get to scale very quickly. But we would never do it in a way where something that is central to how they work with their agent base every day is something that they have to give up or change from the get-go. And so that is the squishy part of what we're doing, which is really trying to leverage the best of what all of our partners bring. And we have done that successfully. And if we continue to do it successfully, it would put us in the position where we think we offer the best succession plan or liquidity plan or equity growth opportunity for BGA leaders across the country.
Bruce, your team has also mentioned to me about the emphasis that you guys place internally on professional development and keeping abreast of the changes in the industry, the regulatory challenges, the sales strategies, everything that agency needs to be successful as a partner shop, that's me using loose terminology, but as a partner agency, to just grow, because this isn't about just giving up ownership or aligning with the service and all of a sudden you take your foot off the gas. That's not in my opinion, that wouldn't be the ideal partner, right? The ideal partner is one that wants to go to the next level with their agency and close those gaps.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is where we've been very lucky. We have 80 partners at Simplicity Group, 32 sales offices across the country. And I think the thing that we've probably done the best, and it's a constant challenge, but it's one that all of our 80 shareholder partners have done exceptionally well, is you want to have the ability to figure out what do people do well, and what are the areas for improvement. And when you're running your own small agency, you have to solve both of those issues with the people that you have. When the reality is your people probably are really strong at certain skills and maybe less strong at others, instead of trying to solve that all the time, outsource it to a much larger organization that can provide that, provide it in a way that marries very well with what you're doing day to day. And that's really the integration strategy. And that gives our prospective partners confidence that not only will they be able to realize great value through their partnership with Simplicity, but their agent base, which they're always thinking about and for whom they're great advocates, can actually see an increase in their business because of the efficiencies that we can bring.
Bruce, last question I have for you. You know, we just kicked off the new year. All of our budgets are done for this year. We kind of know or hope where we're going on the path that we've all had to carve out for each of our individual businesses. But what does 2022 hold for Simplicity Group? What are you most excited about? What can we expect to hear? This is that great opportunity. If you want to leak anything to me, you do it now.
In confidence, no doubt.
Right. In confidence, and only 400,000 advisors this video being shared with.
Yes. So the strategy and what we're doing, and probably more importantly, how we're doing it in terms of building the partnership and really leveraging the best of the skills that we have within the partnership, that's not going to change at all. Why? Well, one, it's brought success, and two, it keeps all of our existing partners and our prospective partners excited about the fact that Simplicity is really their legacy. So if you think about branding, you think about name, you think about ownership, you know, all of our partners today would tell you that they are proud owners of Simplicity. It is really the legacy that we are all building together. We think that will continue to be successful because for sure there's going to be continued consolidation, you know, in the distribution space, in the carrier space, even in the retail agency space. Yep. You know, financial services, particularly through the pandemic, and there's still challenges that we're navigating through, highlight the benefits of being part of a broader organization. It gives you a buffer that when there are unexpected challenges in the market, that you can plug into that broader organization, and that helps you navigate through the existing challenges. I really hope we're out of the pandemic world soon. I really hope we can get back to face-to-face meetings and face-to-face partnership meetings. That will happen on whatever time frame you know, it happens. So then what we're really talking about is, well, then what is exciting for Simplicity if the market's going to stay the same and there's going to be continued consolidation, and your way of operating staying the same because you're building a partnership through warm referrals, and this is a great place for people to realize long-term value, then what's exciting about 2022? And what I would tell you, you know, again, I would say this probably distinguishes us from some of the, you know, competitor organizations that you mentioned earlier. Sure. You know, we are spending a lot of time and money on developing technologies that can be used through the entire sales cycle. So if I go back to that planning conversation, we've invested a lot of capital around how technology can be used to tell the powerful story of insurance and the opportunities and risk mitigants that it can bring in a way that no other financial instrument or organization can bring. We have a lot of respect for wealth managers and asset managers. We recognize that Wall Street does present opportunities as it presents challenges, but that we think the thing that's going to really be the hallmark of it, what we're doing, and we hope will be for the industry, is really everybody proudly announcing, you know, the benefits of insurance and what it can do for the planning process as those two worlds come together. And I think you'll see that, you know, in Simplicity being done with technology enablement.
Bruce, I love your answers. I mean, and the viewers should know that a lot of this was not scripted. You allowed me to throw a couple of curveballs at you, and I'll tell you what, the investment around technology and infrastructure is so vital, especially as, you know, generational agencies get away from legacy systems, and they don't want just, in addition to the people, right? You need the bells and whistles, and I say that bells and whistles loosely because probably the better analogy is you can't grow the tree up without growing the foundation of it to integrate new partners and have the technology there where it's more efficient and there's less time spent on some of that back office stuff we were talking about, or middle office stuff, I guess is a better reference. So more time could be spent on sales and closing the gaps for the uninsured and underinsured. So, hey man, thanks for your time. This is a great interview, and I really love the feedback. And so, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention again, Simplicity Group's a big supporter of NAILBA, and you have a fantastic team and a first-class operation. So thanks for spending the opening executive spotlight with me for 2022.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, Dan, and congratulations to you and everything that's going on at NAILBA. You're great advocates for the industry, and I think that if we can get out of 2022 with a broader market understanding the real benefits, insurance, the increasing value, we will all have a successful 2022.
Great advice. Bruce Donaldson, Chief Executive Officer at Simplicity Group. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you, Dan.